All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I'd like to discuss the off systems and that of the deities that we call upon. Oh, come on, you piece of junk. All right, I do apologize. My system is actually freezing up from time to time right now, and I'm not sure why. But, anyways, today I'm going to talk about the essence of death, death and the deities that we call upon. What is the Da'ath essence? The Da'ath essence is a current that is of negative and non-corporeal energies. When a spirit, such as a human being, passes away, they are not ending outside of what the mundane perception is. But instead, they are evolving into something more. The transfiguration of the souls, the transmutation of souls, is the expansion of the self and the awareness. Necromancers align themselves with the death currents because we deal with spirits, we deal with disincarnated souls. We don't just deal with demons or angelics or even jinn. We work with a lot of different spirits, and we do this by choice. There's a cost that happens and that occurs during this process. The death of the consciousness or the soul literally is like a big bang effect. Explodes out of a vessel and goes out into the expanse, the universe or the multiverse expanse, okay, the void. It goes out and it's the perception of that being's awareness is both loss and gain. And this is why. When we become practitioners, our goal is to become powerful, to become dominant, without the complete understanding that we're not the ones in control. We control our actions, we control our emotions, we control our thoughts, the path workings that we go into. We control this stuff. But when you're using or contacting spirits, you're not the one in control. They are. Think of it this way. When you take a pebble and you drop it into a pond, it creates ripples. That pebble, when it strikes the water, the surface of that water, that is what is referred to as the Big Bang Theory. Okay, that's the term I'm going to use right here. Is the Big Bang Theory. That's the creation and the destruction. Okay, and when we use cartomancy, prime example of that is the Tower card, where you have to destroy to create. Okay, so when that pebble strikes, that section right there, that surface, that's the expulsion of a soul leaving its body. That's the beginning of a whole new journey. They've lost their shell. They've lost the consciousness as we know it as. But when they go into the spiritual realm, they become so much more aware. They become more connected to the current. And they get to learn and continue on in a much, much different variation of that current than what we are able to get into. Now, I was reading a book by Dante Abiel. A lot of you who follow How to Become a Living God know about this guy. Now, the rumor has it that it drove him into insanity. It drove him into insanity to the point where he left the occult and became a Christian. At least that's the rumor that's been going around. Now, it may be so because nobody's seen him around for a while. Okay? A long while. Not since that book came out. And he had that meeting with E.A. Coetti. But while reading his book, his experience as a necromancer, it's a completely different perception than that of, say, the Blood Sorcery Bible, put out by Sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer, or that of, say, let's go with Lucifer Raphael, who wrote a book called Necromancy, the Forbidden Arts, or the Forbidden Practices of Necromancy. You get into Richard Keffer's Forbidden Rites, different current yet again, but dealing with the death essence and the perception that each one of these practitioners has getting into necromancy. You see, it's a lot different for them because they've done it for years. You take somebody who's been doing necromancy professionally for about a year and a half, okay? You've only gotten so far in that current. And that's if you're doing it daily, delving into the Da'ath essence, going to graveyards and just walking amongst the graves, identifying the current, walking barefoot on the grass, walking over the graves, spending time sitting on a grave, talking and doing cartomancy with in front of a gravestone, trying to commune with that spirit, trying to connect with that spirit. You see, that's a whole different system there. That's learning to identify the currents. That's learning to identify the colors of that current, which, by the way, is normally gray or black, sometimes white, depending on the type of spirit and how long they've been disincarnated. But what about the deities that we call upon? Agents of death. A lot of people who get into the arts, such as Satanism, demonolatry, occultism in general, want to throw curses around. You piss them off, they throw a curse. You say no to them, they throw a curse, a hex. You cut somebody off in traffic and they want to go to a black magician and ask for a curse to be placed on somebody. You see, people are too eager to get into these death essences without the complete understanding that the practitioner who performs those writes for you are not held reliable. You are, because you're the one who paid for the service. But what about those deities that you choose to work with on a daily basis and get to know? Like Azrael, the angel of death, Samael, the venom, the poison, Arioch, the lion, Abaddon, the destroyer. To get into Anubis, the lord of the dead in Egyptian, Supe in Inca, Hel in Norse, both Hecate and Hades in Greek, perhaps even Mephistopheles or Pazuzu. Better yet, why don't we just go with Pazuzu, Mesopotamia? Perfect example there. That with the Babylonian goddess, the dragon of chaos herself, Tiamat. Ironic that she's known as the dragon of chaos, because in necromancy and working with the dead, that's exactly what you're doing. It's chaos, and you have to learn to identify the current, not only to the practice itself and connecting with the spirit, but also to the deities, because each one has their own unique essence, just like they have their own unique personalities. You can go with the Luciferian aspects of this and say, well, it's just a mask. It's a mask. You can use a mask to identify an origin of, say, let's go with monetary gain, or that of, say, spiritual gain. Spirits have more knowledge. You can learn from a jinn. You can learn from a demon. You can learn from an angel. But just like a more experienced sage or mage, eventually they're going to cut the umbilical cord and you have to learn on your own. Okay? You have to learn it on your own. Now, personally, I would recommend that anyways. Do it for yourself. Be self motivated. When you get into a current, why not be self motivated? Do your own research on these deities. Do your own research into the path workings. Find the commonalities and the crossovers. Find the differences. Start practicing these currents. You don't have to learn from anyone but yourself. The one thing I've learned from the Mazajira Cabal system within necromancy is the fact that their way is, for the first 6 months, they're going to sit back and watch you to see what you're capable of doing, what you're willing to do for that current, to get to know that the deities within their own respective realms. I've been working a lot with Zazazel. Been working a lot with Chernobog, the Witches of the Depths, the Sith, also known as the Sadi, depending if it's Irish or Scottish variation of it. Been working with the Draconic, even, along with Adnaan, the teacher. The method that they employ for the first 6 months is the same as that of Zaniel, who's the teacher of witchcraft out of the Grimoire tradition. You see, he's in the Grimoire of Armadale. There's a lot of teaching angels out there that can teach you arithmetic. They can teach you geometry. They can teach you about the arts and sciences. like Azazel, who's the teacher of alchemy. Okay, but they're not going to teach you forever. They're going to expect that you learn for yourself eventually. They're going to cut that umbilical cord so that you learn. When I first got into demonology and I started learning the Goetia, I started learning the different beings that I can work with. I didn't have the understanding that you need to pick and choose days when it's appropriate to call on them, the time frames. And I found that a lot of other individuals have been going down this road as well. And this is what I've observed. When people get into Satanism, they automatically go for Anton Zandalave's Bible. They automatically go for it. To hell with all these other ones, like Satan's Bible by Robert Fries, or that of, say, the Satanic Bible 999 by Reverend Cesar 999, who runs the Vampiric Order. Getting into the witch, or what is it, the Unholy Bible by Reverend Cain. Okay, get into the Demonic Bible by Turk Suzij, a Luciferian Satanist who founded the Embassy of Lucifer. Okay, there's so many different books out there that people skip them. They skip all these others, and they go for what's popular. For what's popular. Now, if they took the time to actually look at the material, they're going to see how every one of these practitioners have brought something unique to the table. It's the exact same way with deities. It is the exact same way with practitioners. You see the commonalities, you see the differences of views, but you also see the tools that they use and the different methods and techniques that they use to contact, to evoke, to summon, and to conjure spirits. For an example, last night, a couple days ago, I was hired to do a ritual for a client. So I accepted this job, and I came in here, spent about 3 to 4 hours right here in my altar room. I aligned myself through meditation with that current. I started calling on the beings that I was going to be employing, the hierarchy that I was going to work with and go through for each topic. Called the corners. I called the cardinal directions. You know, I listened to the mantras and felt that current. I started doing the mantra and the end, the demonic end for that specific beings that I was calling on. And you see, that's right there, that's aligning with the death essence. If you're working with for a destruction ritual, for an example, and you're working with, say, Paimon, or not Paimon, but Pazuzu, okay, Abaddon, perhaps let's go with Sabnuk or Ariok even, and you find their demonic end on, say, YouTube. You can sit there and meditate to it, pray to them, con- conjure them up, invite them into your circle, invite them into your altar room, into your world. Come and commune with me, okay? Come commune with me, okay? I call you, I petition thee to come forth and aid me in this working. Okay? You see, it's a sign of respect, but also humbleism. And a lot of people today, they don't have that humbleism. They're demanding about it. Like they actually have a choice on who you work with or who you summon to do that work. More so, if you do it yourself, a lot of these practitioners today, they don't have that humbleism. They think they come at it from a Hebraic system perception, and they think that utilizing a rod of power and threatening a demon into damnation for all eternity is going to scare them. They think by using names of power that it's going to frighten them into submission. I mean, think about it. These beings are hundreds of thousands of years old. A lot of these beings are so far more advanced. Don't you think they have a lot of counteractive spells that they can put forth? Perhaps even countermeasures? Do you not think that they could literally kick your ass if they wanted to? Think about it. If you're calling on a demon for a specific rite or ritual, what makes you so sure that they're going to bow down to your whim? That's like putting a garlic in front of a vampire. What's that old James Wood saying from John Carpenter's Vampires? Oh, right. The vampire is going to bend you over, and you're going to take it up the ass, and probably get a mahogany in the process. Just saying. In my experience, personal experience with the death essences in dealing with these entities and getting to know these entities, I've never had to threaten them. I've never had to coerce them. I petition them, and and they choose to help or they don't. It's not up to me if they help. All I can do is bring them to the table and say, "Hey, I was hired for this particular job," or that I'm doing this ritual for this reason. This is my reason for coming to you. I'm asking you and petitioning you to do this will. Okay? It's a sign of respect, it's a sign of humbleism and mutual relationship. But every so often, you get a hiccup. You get a hiccup. Now, what do I mean by a hiccup? Have you ever done a ritual and you called on a specific being or specific beings in general, and you had somebody else completely show up? Well, I had this happen last night during this ritual. I had four entities show up in my apartment. My apartment. One out there in the living room, and three right in my inner sanctum. My EMF on my phone was going nuts. I kid you not, it was going nuts. So I started asking questions. I started petitioning them, asking them for their who they are, what they are. Things like when were they born? When was, are you good or evil type stuff. This is some questions you can put forth if you want to do it from a Hebraic system way. Personally, I find it getting to know them. Okay. I wanted to know who these spirits were and why they just suddenly came in my altar room, my inner sanctum, and while I was doing a ritual. And the ironic part is the ritual was for plentiful and fruitful things for a client. So to have these type of entities come into this sanctuary was kind of baffling. Okay. And so I got who they were. Okay, so I ended up leaving the altar room after I did the ritual because I had that notion. I knew it was successful. I felt that it was completed and successful. And like I said, it took about 3.5 to 4 hours to do. So I went on, I started doing research, and I found out that these spirits, they're called spectri. Okay, they're a type of haunting spirits. Think of the jinn, genies. Think of angelics or demons. Think of disincarnated people, spirits. And that's exactly what they were. And basically, they're from the dawn of time. They're kind of they show up with people on for people who have grudges, um, are vengeful, are who have been wronged in one form or another. And it got me thinking, with the type of work that I was doing during that ritual. And then my client today asked that same question. Do you suppose someone put something on me? It kind of brought up that question because while I was doing this ritual, you had not one, not two, not three, but four spectri show up. That's kind of unusual, but interesting. But then you consider what I do in my altar room. I work with death. I've been working heavily with the Da'ath system, the tree of death. Okay, when you go into the Kabbalah or the Hermeneutics, you have what is known as the tree of life and the tree of death. Okay, think of it as if you want to get biblical, go into the book of Mark. Okay, I believe it's chapter 5, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, so don't take my word for it. It's been a while since I've actually read the Bible, but it's called Jacob's Ladder. Okay, and what that is you have their Messiah standing there, and a rift in the universe has been made apparent, made manifest. And angels and demons, angels are ascending and descending up this ladder, up and down this ladder. Now think of ascending and descending through your spirituality. Same exact thing. Okay. Work learning to perform these rituals, to calling upon these spirits after doing your research, applying them to your rituals and your workings on a day-to-day basis, either through meditation or through actual rituals, giving offerings and not just offerings, but also, how should I say this, gifts, humble gifts to those spirits. Okay, same, and just doing this daily, just come in to your sanctum and just call them forth and say, hey, come meditate with me, come commune with me. Okay, I open my arms in domus de ornament ausium. Okay, for I know that memento mori is needed. Okay, this is Latin. Okay, and domus de ornament ausium means I open, welcome to the house of golden bones. Memento mori means we all have to die, but to have inspiration to live again. Okay, so think about that. When you willingly invite them in to commune with you, that's the hardest step. Learning to experiment with the techniques to master them, that takes time. A lot of people, they don't reach out into other systems. I've started going into voodoo, Haitian voodoo, looking up Baron Samedi. Okay, Baron Samedi. Dambella, even. Looking at the Loa of the dead. Getting into the different techniques from Pelo Mayambi, Quimbanda, working with seals, phylacteries, getting into the histories and the methods being employed from herbalism, alchemy, you name it, it's there. But you got to be willing and self-motivated to get to know these currents, get to know these beings, and you got to be self-motivated to apply it to your life. It's not a sometime thing. It is not a part-time thing. It is a full-time thing. Every day you have to practice. Every day you've got to commune. Align yourself with these essences, these topics. Get to know them. Since I started delving back into the folklore, I'm talking old world folklore going back over all the way to 5, 6 CE, okay? Even BCE, even through necromancy, through folklore, dealing with the Dralith, dealing with the Lords of Death from various different powders, to dealing with their history and calling on them, drawing their sigils, their seals, bringing up spices, herbs that will help. For an example, I did a ritual last month, and I was working with Piamon. Out of the blue, I just figured, you know what? Instead of sandalwood, instead of dragon's blood, why not lavender? Why not lavender? And that night, I had one hell of a connection with Piamon. You see, branching out can benefit you. It can be a scary thing, especially for newcomers, especially for those who have grown up in a coven setting, or even a cult for that matter. You can come from the JCI systems, you can come from any system really, but it's just that courage to make that first step, to take that first step. And that is up to you. All right? With the sources that I gave earlier in this video, I would recommend that you delve into it. You know, even get into Christian Days, the Witch's Book of the Dead. There's a lot of fruitful, beneficial information in those sources. I would recommend getting into Haitian Voodoo, get into Slavic, Scandinavian, and Baltic witchcraft practices, Germanic even. The different eras from Proto to Low, Medium, and High Germanic. Getting into Gaelic and Icelandic traditions. Get into their folklores and their practices, the vocabulary even. And you're going to see a huge, huge difference. But you got to have self-motivation to do it for yourself and not for someone else. I've seen a lot of people become armchair magicians because they think it's better to follow than to actually lead. They think it's all about following that one current. Oh, everybody's doing this, so I'm going to delve into this. Why not be that odd fish out and go upstream? Become the black magician, the sorcerer, the mage or magi, the warlock or witch that you're meant to be. But you got to do it for yourself, not for someone else. And the one thing I've learned is you can't be a part of the world and do what we do. You just can't. It don't mix. People, even at my own job, the job that I work in, they sit there and they're talking all kinds of stuff about the world, and it's like I'm so far back in time that I have no clue what they're talking about. You know, they're either talking about female things or or they're talking about events in the world that I'm not a part of. I have no need to be. I show up, I do my job, and I leave. Plain and simple. I do what is required to provide for my family, for my practice. Outside of that, there's nothing in this world that I want or care about. I come in here because this is what those I serve have required for me to do, which is to teach, to guide, to set the record straight through knowledge, through historical and mythological accounts, to show you that it's okay to step out of your safe zone, to step into the unknown currents and do what's got to be done for your self evolution. But the choice is yours. Have a good day.